Hello guys, now it is time to make the configuration for the storage, but there is one last step I need to do. It is the configuration of the targets. I can do it later, but let us do it now just to fully understand what's in there. Remember, so far in target global configuration we said the ISNS server. This is the name of it once we try to display it using the ISCSI initiator. And also I configured portals on which port the server here is going to listen, NAS storage, initiator, who will be allowed to access. And in both cases for the portal group ID is 1, initiator, the group ID also is 1. So now I can configure targets. And we need to see what's going to happen once I configure it. If I access to my ISCSI initiator now and try to access to target 192.168.230, which is the NAS storage here, if I refresh, I would get nothing, as you see. Why? Because there is no target set yet. If I set a target now, click Add. First, specify a name for the target. I will assume this is for SQL 2019. No need for target alias. Now, with the portal group ID, anyway, I have only one group, which is number 1. And initiator group ID also, I have only one group, which is number 1 for the servers. Authentication method, I will just keep it as is. No need to change it. You can configure it with CHAP or mutual CHAP if you want. You can prove your security also. And authentication group number also, there is no need for that because I don't have such a group. So that's why I'll keep it to none. With the authentication, make sure it is none. There is nothing there. Yes. And then we save the configuration for the target. So currently my target is in here. And we can now try to use again the ISCSI initiator from server 2. Now when I provide the IP address for the NAS and click on refresh, this time I will be able to see, as you see, the name of my NAS storage. So this is my NAS and this is the IQ name. The IQ name is available in target to global configuration. Click on it and select connect. And it tells you like it's going to be connected. Add this connection to the list of favorite target is fine. We don't have multiple path here in this scenario. Multiple path, in case you want to attend the scenario for this one, is available in course 5 of Windows Server 2019 Enterprise Storage. Here we have OK now. And we can click on another OK if you want, but it is already being connected. If I check now my disk management at this stage, and we access to action, refresh. Here, as you see, we don't have any additional drivers being added. Why? Because so far we hadn't yet configured any ISCSI driver. For now, we just configure the ISCSI connection between NAS and the servers, but I need also to configure the storage, and this is what we try to do now. So we need to jump back now to our configuration of ISCSI. And now we need to deal with the storage. Access to the storage now. And in storage, as you see, we can create pools. We can check snapshots, VMware snapshots, disk and import disk. For pools, currently I have no pools. In the previous version, we call pool as volume. So just in case, and if you try to access to some resources, and you will find the creation of the volume, it means pools. Snapshot, I have nothing. VMware snapshot, of course, I have nothing. And we have also no need to use them with this scenario. Disks, here we have two main disks. The first one, DA0, 8 GB. We use it to install the operating system. And this one is the free one, which I will use it to configure the ISCSI drivers. Import disk, we have nothing to be imported with this scenario. And the destination path if you want. So for us, we need to access to pools. In pools now to create it, you need to access to add. And now what do you try to do? We'll try to create a new pool. Click on create pool. The system now first asks you to give a name. So for this time, I will call it SQL pool. There's a chance upper cases are not accepted. So in that case, you need to print it using lower cases. It might happen sometimes like this, SQL pool. So even this time I don't have like this red underline, which means it has been accepted. Do I want to encrypt it? No, there is no need. Suggest layout, create recommended formation. of V division in a pool. We don't need to have that. Now for the disk, only DA1 is a variable, so I will pick it. And I click on this arrow to the right to add it to the pool. Here now, select 0, 0. What has been total selected is 1. And estimated raw capacity is 28 gigabyte, about 30 gigabyte. And we can just configure it as stripe. We cannot configure it as mirror or RAID 1 or 2 because we don't have more than one disk. Again, if you want to attend the RAID configuration, you need to attend the enterprise storage, which is course 5 in Windows Server 2019 series. Here, filter disk by name, filter disk by capacity, there is no need. And we can add data, cache, log, spare, but currently even spare we cannot add it, we don't have another disk. So for now I'll just create it, that's it. And confirm, create the pool. And the pool, as we see, is being created to the SQL pool. From here now you can add what you want. For us, we need to add now the Z volume. You can add dataset. Dataset, configure it as a container for Z volumes if you want, and inside it you can create the Z volumes. Then you have edit, and finally you can create a snapshot. So we start by add dataset, and in this dataset I will make it for Windows, and the name of it I will call it SQL dataset. Why do I call it dataset here? Why do I add that? Just to know later where it is a variable or what is exactly the name of it in case it appears somewhere else. So it is for Windows. Everything else you can set it as is. Here it show me like there is an error. Let us see here, enter a unique name for the dataset. Okay, even with that I'll try to create it. Now we just try to save it. It has been accepted. Now inside SQL, as you see, I have SQL dataset. And now because we try to create drivers for SQL instance, then we need to have 3 drivers. Let us create them. I will start now, click on the dataset settings and start by add Z volume. So the first volume, I will call it SQL column. And with this one, no need for comment. Size for this volume, you can give it even 512 megabyte if you want, but here I will give it 1 gigabyte. And this now driver will be used later by SQL failover cluster just for the transaction data relating to the failover cluster itself. This is the idea of it. Usually we make it 512 megabyte, but it's fine. For size, no need for that. Inherent for compression level, and ZFS deduplication. Inherent is off. Deduplication, we already explained that before in Windows Server 2019 series with course 5 enterprise storage, and we had seen how we can even implement it on the Microsoft storage box. And the idea usually is just how you can reduce the size of the files to be saved on the same partition. For now I don't need to use it. I'll just save now the first. As we see, the first driver, I have it now. I need to create another driver, and the other driver I will call it again, call add Z volume. This one, other driver, I will call it SQL DTC. It is for the transaction of SQL Server, which we are going to use it inside the failover cluster. The size of this one, I will make it 2 gigabyte. And then everything else as is, we don't need to change. Now we have, as we see here, 2 drivers. And then I need to add one more driver inside dataset, which is now for the main SQL Server installation. So the volume name, this one is SQL database DP, and no comment. The size of this one I will use now 25 gigabyte. You remember we have about 28 gig free, and everything also it is recommended to use then. It tells you here it is not recommended to use more than 80% of your available space, and this is true because when you have like lesser free space, then even the performance is going to be reduced. So let us make this one, maybe I'll make it about 22, see if it is accepted, still above the limit. Even if I use 20%, we are going to be above the limit unless I use something less. That's fine. Let us use maybe 17 gigabyte. Save. It has been accepted now. And finally, now in my SQL, I have the dataset and I have all these drivers, as we see. But does it mean now they will be added automatically to server 2 because it is already connected? Let us check. If I access now to ISCSI initiator, currently it is not connected. I'll connect it again. Now it is being connected. If I access now to the disk management and in action I try to refresh, you see so far I cannot see the 3 hard disks. Why? Because we still have some work we need to have. And this work again is inside the ISCSI configuration. So that's why I need again to access to the sharing and in sharing to block ISCSI. And in ISCSI, you remember, we set all of these, the portal, initiator, authorize access, target, but we still have some work here in extent and associated targets. This is what I need to do. So with extent, I'll start to add now a new extent. The extent name, let us call it SQL EX. And the extent type, it can be device, it can be file. Let us assume it is a device for now. And now the device which we are looking for, as you see, I have all these 3 now. So I will add the first one. And according to that, because I know what this extent is for, so this one I will call it SQL quorum extent. And then it is a device, the size of it. Now the block size will be fine. Disable physical block, no need. A variable space threshold, no need. Enable TPC, just read the configuration of it. Allow initiator to bypass normal access control and access any scannable target. This allow Xcopy operations which are otherwise blocked by access control. For our scenario here, you enable TPC or not is not going to affect what we try to do, but I'll keep the default settings. Now for the RPM, because on this device I use SSD, the system automatically detected. Otherwise, you need to configure, in case you use not SSD, you use just a normal hard disk, you need to configure the round per minute for that hard disk. Is it like 5K or even 15K? Depends. For us, it is SSD and we save. So here I have now the first extent. Of course, I need to add another 2. The second one is going to be my SQL DTC extent. And again, it is a device. And this time it is the 2 gigabyte. Everything else as is. I don't need to change anything. I need to add one more. And this one, SQL database extent device, and it is the 17 gigabyte, and this is my save. I have all the 3 extent. Now the final step is to create the logical unit number. So I need to access to associated target and start to create the first one, add. So my target here is SQL 2019. Then ID, I can pick all of them. And with the extent, I can choose first the SQL quorum. Let us take them in order. And for the LAN ID, let us give it number 1 because all doesn't been accepted. It tells you with the LAN logical unit number, select the value or enter a value between 0 and 1023. Some initiators accept a value below 256. So it's better all the time to make the value for each LAN is less than 256. I start with the first one. Save. This one is now for the quorum, I know it. And we need to add another one. Add. So again, with the target is SQL 2019. LAN ID now is number 2. And I will pick this time the DTC. Save. This one also is in here. And finally, I need to add for SQL Server 2019 LAN number 3, which is the database, SQL database now. And save. Now we're done with the configuration of our storage device. We can try now to access to the initiator. So what I will do, I will first disconnect, then I will connect again. Okay. And I'll check volume on devices, auto configuration. See, the system now can see all the 3 disks being added. And if I check now my disk management, all the 3 are in there, the 1 GB, 2 GB, and 17 GB. But I'm not going now to initialize them and configure, because also I need to do the same from server 1. This video is already long enough, so we will do that in the next video. And then we start with the installation of failover cluster libraries, test it, and after that we initialize it. Thanks for watching.